Hello students and welcome you all in Classroom Notes by Rekha Jain. Today I will explain the chapter Indigo by Louis Fisher line by line in original text and word meanings, though I have told you the summary in my previous video. So before I start the chapter, let me again remind you to subscribe my channel if you have not yet done, and do press the notification icon and also share the video with your friends. So let me start. When I first visited Gandhiji in 1942 at his ashram in Sevagram in central India, he said, "I'll tell you how it happened that I decided to urge the departure of the British. It was in 1917. In this paragraph, author tells that after meeting Gandhiji in 1942, Gandhiji told him that he had decided to compel Britishers to leave India, and it started in 1917. He had gone to December 1916 annual convention of Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow. There were 2,300 delegates and many visitors. During the proceedings, Gandhiji recounted a peasant came to me looking like any other peasant in India, poor and emaciated, and said, "I am Rajkumar Shukla. I am from Champaran. I want you to come to my district." Gandhiji had never heard of the place. It was in the foothills of the towering Himalayas near the kingdom of Nepal. So this is the incident when Gandhiji had gone to annual convention of Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow in December 1916, and there were almost 2,300 delegates, that means special people, and many other visitors. And during the proceedings, means during the meetings, incidents, Gandhiji recalled a peasant whose name was Shukla, who was like other peasants, very poor, very emaciated, weak. And this is the usual condition of farmers. They are so poor and physically they are so weak. And he was from Champaran, and he wanted Gandhiji to come to his district. His district was in the foothills of towering Himalayas. Towering means high Himalayas. Under an ancient arrangement, the Champaran peasants were sharecroppers. Rajkumar Shukla was one of them. He was illiterate but resolute. He had come to the Congress session to complain about injustice of landlord system in Bihar, and somebody has probably said, "Speak to Gandhiji." So he was a poor farmer who was working under sharecropping system, although he was illiterate but very determined. And somebody had suggested him to talk to Gandhiji. Gandhiji told Shukla that he had an appointment in Kanpur and was also committed to go to other parts of India. Shukla accompanied him everywhere. Then Gandhiji returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla followed him to the ashram. For weeks he never left Gandhiji's side. "Fix a date," he begged. Impressed by the sharecropper's tenacity and story, Gandhiji said, "I have to be in Calcutta on such and such date. Come and meet me and take me from there." So Gandhiji told that he was busy having appointment in Kanpur and he was committed. That means he was scheduled to go to other parts of India. Now Shukla was so adamant, he followed Gandhiji everywhere, and when Gandhiji returned to his ashram, he went there also. For weeks he kept following him, and he requested, "Fix a date." By now Gandhiji was much impressed by his tenacity, that means firmness, and then he said that he had to be in Calcutta on a particular date, and from there he could take him. Months passed. Shukla was sitting on his haunches at the appointed spot in Calcutta when Gandhiji arrived. Haunches means like he was sitting on his feet, not on his thighs. And he waited till Gandhiji was free. Then the two of them boarded a train for the city of Patna. There Shukla led him to the house of a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad, who later became the president of Congress party and of India. Rajendra Prasad was out of the town, but servants knew Shukla as a poor yeoman who pestered their master to help the indigo sharecroppers. So they let him stay on the ground with his companion Gandhiji, whom they took to be another peasant. But Gandhiji was not permitted to draw the water from the well, lest some drops from his bucket pollute the entire source. How did they know that he was not an untouchable? So this paragraph speaks volume about the social evil of untouchability and also about the ruthless behavior of the servants of Rajendra Prasad. So after months, Shukla was again before Gandhiji as guided by him earlier, and both of these having got free, both of these boarded a train to Patna in Bihar. There Shukla carried Gandhiji to the house of Rajendra Prasad, and he was known to the servants of Rajendra Prasad as a poor farmer, and that is why they took Gandhiji also as a poor farmer, because Shukla was untouchable, Gandhiji was also taken as untouchable, and that is why Gandhiji was not allowed to draw water from their well, because he was in his humble clothes. So this paragraph speaks volume about the social evil of untouchability. Now, and you can see the humble attitude of Gandhiji, who accompanied the untouchable without having given it thought. Gandhiji decided to go first to Muzaffarpur, which was en route to Champaran, to obtain a more complete information about conditions than Shukla was capable of imparting. He accordingly sent a telegram to Professor J.B. Kriplani of the Arts College in Muzaffarpur, whom he had seen at Tagore's Shantiniketan school. The train arrived at midnight, 15th April 1917. Kriplani was waiting at the station with a large body of students. Gandhi stayed there for 2 days in the home of Professor Malkani, a teacher in a government school. So, dear students, this paragraph speaks about the modus operandi started by Gandhiji, and also of some humble people but supported Gandhiji, especially during the times when it was so risky, because it was the time of the British rule and supporters of the home rule were punished. So modus operandi started like this. Gandhiji first went to Muzaffarpur, which was on the way to Champaran. Why? Because he wanted to have the complete information, because Shukla could not give complete information. And simultaneously he had informed Professor J.B. Kriplani, whom he had seen at Tagore's Shantiniketan school. And Kriplani came to the station with a large group of the students, and Gandhiji stayed for 2 days at the home of Professor Malkani, who was a teacher from humble background in a government school. And the next paragraph, what is given in the next paragraph, I just told you, it was an extraordinary thing. That means it was something more than usual. That Gandhiji also commented that Malkani was a professor of a government school, a teacher from a government school, and harboring, that means sheltering a teacher, sheltering by a teacher, sheltering an Indian fighter, Indian freedom fighter by a school government teacher was a big thing, because advocates of the home rule were quite at risk during those days. The news of Gandhiji's advent and of the nature of his mission spread quickly through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran. Sharecroppers from Champaran began arriving on foot and by conveyance to see their champion. Muzaffarpur lawyers called on Gandhiji to brief him. They frequently represented peasant groups in court. They told him about their cases and reported the size of fee. Now by now, the news of Gandhi's advent means arrival has reached like fire through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran, and that is why sharecroppers from Champaran started coming on feet and on vehicles too. And Muzaffarpur lawyers were called by Gandhiji because he wanted to brief them. He wanted them to brief him about the condition of the farmers. And they also told him about the cases of the poor farmers being registered in the court, and the amount of the fees they were charging. Gandhiji chided the lawyers for collecting big fee from the sharecroppers. He said, "I've come to the conclusion that we should stop going to the law courts. Taking such cases to the court does little good. Where the peasants are so crushed and fear-stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear." Now see, the first thing Gandhiji did, he scolded the lawyers for collecting the fee, because already they were so poor, and taking the fee from them, fighting the cases in the court doesn't do any good for them. Already the farmers were crushed, they were broken, they were so scared, and the best thing to be make them free from the fear of these landlords. In the next paragraph is explained the system of sharecropping. Most of the arable land in the Champaran district was divided into large estates owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. The landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20 or 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. And this was done by long-term contract. So this is the system. The maximum, most of the arable land in Champaran was divided into estates, and chief commercial crop was indigo. All the landlords compelled the sharecroppers to grow 15% of their land with indigo crop and to surrender the whole indigo, means to submit the whole indigo to the landlords as rent. And this was how the farmers remained poor, because they were exploited, because that indigo crop was very expensive in the market. Presently, the landlords learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo, and thereupon obtained agreement from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. Now landlords were so shrewd, they were so mean and selfish. The moment they heard the news of the synthetic indigo in the market, they released the sharecroppers from their compulsion, and they wanted the compensation. Now the sharecroppers were burdened with more sufferings. Compensation to be paid, already they were so poor. From where will they bring the money to be paid? The sharecropping arrangement was irksome to peasants, that means irritating, and many signed willingly, and those who registered engaged lawyers. The landlords hired thugs. Meanwhile, the information about synthetic indigo reached the illiterate peasants who had signed, and they wanted their money back. Now, many peasants, because they were so poor, they signed willingly, because that sharecropping system was so irritating. They thought that now they would be free from this foundation. And those who resisted, means those who opposed, they engaged the lawyers. But landlords were very shrewd and they hired thugs. Thug is a Hindi word, that means they hired dishonest people. But when the sharecroppers learned about the synthetic indigo, they wanted their money back. Now at this point, Gandhiji arrived in Champaran. He began by trying to get the facts. First, he visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association. The secretary told him that they could give no information to an outsider. Gandhiji answered that he was no outsider. So this paragraph is clearly telling that Gandhiji started collecting the facts, and when he went to the office of the British Landlords Association, he was not given any information. He was labelled as an outsider. Next, Gandhiji called on the British Official Commissioner of Tirhut Division, in which the Champaran district lay. The commissioner proceeded to bully me and advised me forthwith to leave Tirhut. Gandhiji reports. So Gandhiji was bullied, that means he was manhandled. He was immediately ordered to leave Tirhut division. But see the adamance of Gandhiji. Gandhiji did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. Several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhiji. He went to a house, using it as headquarters, continued his investigations. A report came in that a peasant had been maltreated in a nearby village. Gandhiji decided to go there. The next morning, he started on the back of an elephant. He hadn't proceeded far when the police superintendent messenger overtook him and ordered him to return to the town in his carriage. Gandhiji complied. The messenger drove Gandhiji home, where he served him with an official notice to quit Champaran immediately. Gandhiji signed the receipt for the notice and wrote on it that he would disobey the order. So this paragraph speaks about Gandhiji's further strategy. He did not, although he was ordered to leave, but he didn't go. Instead, he went to Motihari, which was the capital of Champaran, and many lawyers accompanied him, means went with him. And at the railway station, a great crowd, multitude means great crowd, welcomed him. And he stayed at a house which he used as a headquarters. And he got a report that a farmer was tortured in a nearby village. And when Gandhiji went there, and he decided to lay a protest, and that is why he laid a procession. Then he received a message by a police superintendent who ordered him to return to his town. Gandhiji complied, that means he obeyed. Messenger drove Gandhiji home, where he was given an official notice to quit Champaran, to leave Champaran. That was a written notice. Gandhiji signed over there, but simultaneously he wrote that he was disobeying the order. So dear students, I think this video is long enough. I will explain the next part of the chapter in my next video. So we'll meet again. Till then, bye bye.